everybody. I want to get your attention, and it's so nice to see everybody enjoying each other's company. And thank you for coming on this chilly evening. Glad that you all brought your coats, and really appreciate you supporting Together Women Rise. Forgot we are recording tonight. Last month, I see many familiar faces. We were at Joni Scott's, and Rosalie Cornu did a fabulous job presenting Dream. And remember the Unica app? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Remember the Unica app and what an innovative, fabulous project that was to raise women and children in developing nations. You all had a lot of questions from last month's presentation. And the good news is Rosalie's on it, but guess what? She's out of town. I think she might be she's out of town this time. So she has all the answers, and I'm going to have her present the answers to those important 5 questions at the next meeting. Okay. A couple of ground rules. You guys would be very surprised how many hours our speakers spend on a presentation. And the catch is we've actually asked them to distill pages and pages and slides of information into 15-20 minutes. So what I'm asking of you, when we get our speaker to the podium, to try to just give them 15-20 minutes and zip it. I know you want to talk to your friends, and so at a later time in the evening, we will have another social time where we'll break and we'll get some dessert, okay? So now I am going to introduce, but before I introduce our speakers, I want everyone to settle. Just drop your shoulders, put your arms down, close your eyes in this beautiful evening in Karen's house. And we're going to take 3 deep cleansing breaths to redirect our attention to where we're going tonight, which is Sierra Leone. So breath number 1, fill up your lungs and then exhale. And a second breath in, breathing in the beautiful tree that we sit below, and exhale. And and I hear the crickets. And a third breath in. And exhale, deep, deep exhale. And now I'd like to present Anne Arjani, who's going to speak about our featured grantee, One Village Partner from Sierra Leone. And she has a special letter from Sierra Leone. So Anne, come on up.
Hi there. So we're talking about Sierra Leone, and since I have so much material to get through, rather than reading slides that just have print on it, I'm going to let you read it for about seconds, and then we'll move on to the next slide. So we're talking about the Together Women Rise grant for $30,000 this month, and it's in an umbrella of One Village Partners. It's a small program within One Village Partners, and it's a grant to help elevate women within village life. Next slide. So the OVP vision. So if we look at this slide, what happens often in an African village is that at the bottom, you see a man and a woman in kind of a house in disrepair, because in sort of like traditional African life, men are not really connected with the family. They'll sometimes take the money, go off and have a good time after a harvest. But what One Village Partners is trying to do is bring inclusive leadership in with men, women, and youthful trained community leaders. And major tenet is community of it is, I need to go back, is gender equity. And I just want to say that for Dining for Women, gender equity seems to be the theme. When we create gender equity, all communities do better. When women are elevated, when they have economic power and also social power, everything in the community gets better. And I would say that that's the primary theme that I see through all of our programs. Also, once we have equity, we have more social cohesion. People help each other. People are proud of their village. And finally, what One Village is after is resilient communities, because these African communities, they're facing Ebola, COVID, climate change, and all of the, civil war. And so a resilient community can handle these shocks better. Slide. So this is Sierra Leone. I'll let you read this slide.
When it says, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
slave trade staging area, that.
Okay, so back in the day,
Slave trade.
this was the way where ships came to pick up slaves and take them to the New World. So this is a typical village in Sierra Leone. It's a beautiful place. It has a lot of, gorgeous landscaping. And I got a special letter from my friend Wata. Dear Anne, this is Wata. I am deeply honored to tell you about my life here as a woman and mother in the village of Grima in Sierra Leone, and my experience with the program now, or Nurturing Opportunities for Women, put together by One Village Partners. I asked the volunteer from OVP to write this letter for me, and I hope it helps you and your women friends understand how much you are helping us here in Sierra Leone. OVP is different from other NGOs, non-government organizations, in other words, charitable organizations that have come to our village. In the past, the other NGOs just listened to what the headman chief and his sons and their obsequious friends asked for, and they would get this. Often those men would get the money skimmed off the project, and or the project would benefit their land holdings. This is how my village was of Grima before OVP and now. As a result, our community did not work well together, as everyone felt that the powerful always got the money, the old got the money, the men got all the money. And with this new way of doing things by OVP, everybody in the village feels like they have a voice in our community and their vote is counted on for projects. We now help each other more than in the past, and our community is stronger, friendlier, and happier. The youth help, the women help, the men help. OVP holds gender equity as a main tenet of its programs. OVP trains leaders, village leaders. The leaders are both men and women. This is very new. At first, the headman and his people did not like it, but now he sees that much more gets done. He makes more money when we have trained women and youth to be part of the village council. This was our first day of community volunteer training. See, men, women, and youth. My husband is one of the community volunteers in training. In an OVP village meeting, men, women, youth, and even children can express their opinions on what things should be. We women never miss a community voting meeting now, so many of the projects we ask for get chosen by our village community, which is all of us. In the past, the headman and his buddies made all the decisions. So in this village meeting, you can't see this, but it says they're using pictographs, and this says freedom to exercise human rights, equality, including and participation, and consultative household decision-making. Imagine that. Next slide. This is where, even a small child can voice an opinion in a community meeting. It was not like this before. And often we see women outvoting men because we show up. We don't forget. 2 years ago, we got a new well with the village council to keep it clean and running. Next slide. We no longer have to go fetching water. Girls can attend school. Last year, we women out voted the men for latrines, so there isn't human poop all over the village. Because then flies land on it, and when the flies go to the food, you get the idea. As a result, the children and adults are much healthier and do not get so much illness. Families save money because we don't have to buy so much medicine for stomach distress. Now, this is an agricultural drying floor. Go back to the drying floor, please.
Yeah.
Okay, the drying floor, what it does is it allows people to dry their crops. When they dry their crops, the crops last longer. Then the crops can be put in sacks and put into the storage shed. And then they can be sold when the prices are high rather than only as soon as the crops are produced, because in the past, if they didn't sell them right away, they would get moldy and go bad. So this is a huge thing. Okay, you're going a little too fast. I want my life to be different from my mother's. When I was a little girl, my mother just humbly took whatever money father gave her, even though she was the one who earned most of that money in our family. She was not allowed to have an opinion. And if she asked for more money for our household or criticized his spending, he would tell her, "You are not educated. How can you possibly know anything about money? I am the leader of this household and I will make all of the decisions as a man should." A good wife is quiet and obedient and accepts the leadership of her husband. It is her job to bear children and serve her husband. And yes, they're not evangelicals. She does not complain or ask for more money than is given. She works for what money he gives her. Quiet woman, or I shall have to beat you. My father even took all the money from her egg and chicken business. Next slide. My father would sometimes leave for weeks at a time with most of the money after each market day or harvest. He would often come home drunk or angry, demanding food, and that we all be quiet. He had spent all of the money from the harvest. I want more equality and freedom with my husband, and I want to have a warm, loving, and sharing relationship, like some of the more educated women in my village. We always share in the work in the rice field. Why shouldn't we share in how the family money is spent? Sadly, my husband used to say many of these same things to me. Since he went to volunteer school and I didn't, since he went to school and I didn't, he said, "You know nothing, woman, be quiet." But this I know, we work together when we are farming, or I am raising our chickens. 3 years ago, my husband was trained by OVP, One Village Partners, to become a community volunteer leader. This made such a huge difference in our relationship as he learned from OVP how much better life is when there is gender equity and community equity and wife and husband working together. He is much happier as a community and volunteer, and now we are so much happier as a couple. I was selected to be in the Now Nurturing Opportunities for Women program 1 year ago. I was so very happy, but also nervous since I did not finish more than 2 standards of school. I don't know how to count, add numbers, or read. In our first meeting, we started by dancing our traditional dances and doing trust falls. I felt I could trust my women friends in Now. Then they taught us how to hold a pencil, since most of us have never done this. We set goals for what we wanted for our home. My most important financial goal is for all my children to attend school regularly with uniforms, books, pens, pencils, and everything they need. Before, my husband did not care about school tuitions, but now he is a changed man, and now he too wants education for all of our children, not just our boys. Because of the influence of Now, our entire community voted to build a school for our village for all of our children to attend. Next, we learned how to use the pictograph calendar to budget for our household, how much food we will need, money for clothes, fuel, medicine, and household, and how planning has a time component. So I'm going to just digress here. This is really special about what One Village Partners does. They use a pictographic system that anyone can use, even the illiterate, and it allows them to understand money and time and the calendar year together. And they have 5 harvest systems, or harvest, it's cut into 5 different seasons because they have 5 harvest seasons. Next slide. Did you know every household must have emergency savings? We are now building this for our security in times of difficulty, like when there was Ebola and COVID. Next. So they, again, 5 farming seasons using the calendar. I am learning how to plan and budget for my household for the entire year. I know how much money I need to run our home. Next. So they learn public speaking, a very, very important component in this program, because by learning to do some speaking in front of their women friends, this then translates into the village meetings where women get up and say, no, we need latrines before we need the drying floor. And so the public speaking component is essential to creating gender equity. One of the most important lessons I am learning in the Now program is how to ask for things for our family in such a way that my husband treats me more. He now sees with my budget that I understand how much we need to live daily. We have a husband day where our husbands come and collaborate with us in using our financial planning calendar. So in this, you got to go back. In the slide before, a lot of times people at this level, they don't understand the difference between wants, like I need alcohol, I need cigarettes. That's a want. It's actually not a need. And so one of the things they focus on is wants and needs. Once we learned how to use the calendar, our husbands came to our Now class and discussed their financial goals along with their wants and needs. We compared our goals and we were very much the same. My husband now listens to my counsel on our finances for our home. He also wants all 3 of our daughters to be educated. So now he has many of the same goals as I do. I feel we are working more as a team than before when we were so much more separate, angry, and quarreling. Discussing money like this is so much better than fighting and begging for more money as I did before. Next slide. I was so very proud on graduation day. My husband also was so very proud. We got the award for most communicating couple, and I had him walk through graduation for me as my true partner. Life is good. We are so proud as a couple. Other women ask me how I changed my marriage, and I tell them, go to Now class. So they graduated 120 women in 4 villages. That actually has a huge impact. Most villages are 200 to 400 people. I'm going to let you read this. Next slide. So if we can go back for just one. I think the big takeaway on One Village Partners is when families are more financially resilient, it leads to communities that are more financially and socially resilient as well. Can you go back? Okay, and these are next. Okay. So this is basically the Now deliverables. So if you can't read them, 97 finance graduates, 101 Now business graduates. There are actually 3 Now programs. 97% of the graduates achieve their primary financial goal, and in the business, 91% of the graduates achieve their primary financial goal. And 91% increase in Now participants' control of household financial decisions, very important. 87% increase in Now participants speaking in public to large groups, very important. Next slide. After Now, I feel confident about speaking up in our community. Once I got my voice at home, it led me to have the confidence to speak publicly, more like a leader in our village. I am much prouder of who I am now. I have confidence in myself. I hope to someday teach Now in our village. Here I am at a community meeting, voicing my opinion about a project. Maybe someday I will train to be a community volunteer leader. Now, there's a video here, but we're going to skip it. Okay. It's a great video. I recommend you go see it on the Dining for Women site.
I can include that in the wrap up.
Okay. So phase 2 of the Now program focuses on business skills. Uta is making her business plan to sell cooked rice. She presented her plan to our class as part of public speaking section. Is cooked rice a good or a service? My friend Jube is talented as a shopkeeper. Dula loves to make things. She makes the best smelling soap. So now what they really needed was not just business skills. They need agricultural business skills. So these are pretty high level agricultural business skills, but especially as inflation increases worldwide, they need to understand that if they're paying more for chicken feed, for example, they have to raise the price of their eggs. Now that seems obvious to us, but it's not obvious to a villager. So these are the kinds of things that they teach in their agricultural program. So some of them are forming a rice cooperative. Next slide. Fish farming is coming on strong. Did you know fish can be harvested 3 times a year? And then this is a chicken and egg business. It's very different from her mother's. Her mother's chicken and egg business was like the chickens were probably walking around the village, maybe in a pen at night. She's actually built a shed for the chickens. And she's on the first step of doing more of an agribusiness approach to chicken and egg business. Next. So if you look, this village looks much better than the original village. We recently built a bridge across the river. Most of all, I am grateful for the improvement in my status in my marriage and in my community. And for those of you who love metrics, here we are. Thank you.
Doesn't matter, because we were very.
All right, we're ready for a Q&A and I'm gonna kick it off. Your wonderful presentation. Wow, and you did it in like 15 minutes, by the way. Which was our great. So many pieces that were interesting. That the piece where they had the drying area where people would dry their goods. I was trying to figure out why is it important to have an area versus just dry it in the street or in front of their house or.
Because the street's made out of dirt.
Okay, and maybe,
Okay.
is it
So this is a
protected?
cement drying area,
Okay,
probably painted a specific color to make things dry better. And having a storage shed, I mean, you can obviously see that if you dry the goods, you have higher quality goods and then they can sell it for more and they can sell when food costs more, like during the middle of the harvest season, after the harvest season, halfway through to the next, obviously those food prices will go up.
right. And does somebody guard it so it's not stolen?
I am quite sure they do. And I
Uh-huh.
suspect they even have things like, you know, you have to think about a lot of trust because multiple people are storing their goods in that shed.
Right, yeah.
So
Right.
I'm sure that they didn't go deeply into that, but in the past, the head man would have gotten the NGO to make the shed and the drying area, and then he would have used that resource for his own crops because he would have the most, you know, to grow, right? So now by connecting the whole village, everybody wants that system to work. And I think that's the genius of One Village Partners. Everybody, and also what I couldn't cover, that's a really important component of doing a charitable project is that they actually ask each villager to come in and bring something to the project. It can be money. Sometimes women will bring, like if they're building something, they will bring wood. Or it can be, you know, maybe they have they're good at making bricks. So they make bricks or they work on the unit or the building or whatever they're doing. But asking the community to actually contribute some of their treasure is an important component along with their time. If you come and build it for them, like if you build a well for a community, it will be dysfunctional and not working in 6 months. That's why they have a sort of like village community, like, hey, if you use the well, you can't just do these things. You can't wash your dishes near the well, okay? There are now rules. And so they're basically setting up more of a democratic government.
Yeah, wonderful community building too. So,
Yes.
yeah, thank you. Let's take some other questions.
Yes, I would love to hear more about who the actual now people are that come to the small village and do they live there? Are they?
So
where
I
do-
think
where are
that they-
trained and who
yeah.
are they?
So One Village Partners is based in, I believe, Minneapolis. And they hire, you know, there are professional people who work in that sector. And they hire people to come in and train the volunteers. But at the end of the day, the volunteers actually teach the NOW program. So there are pictures on the One Village Partners website of the many volunteers who come. Most of them are in their late 20s to 40s to do the trainings.
And they're local people or?
No, they're like you and me,
Okay,
know.
okay.
but they train the local people. And I think that's what's important is that, see, they're training volunteers and teaching them about how to get everyone's ideas and how to do gender equity and how to actually make whatever project the village undertakes a success. But they start with their village volunteers that they train, who are half women, half men, and also have young people in there. Because in these very stratified societies, old people kind of have all the say. And by allowing young people to have more say, they get buy-in from the young people. Any other questions? No? Helen?
It's not a question, it's just a comment. What I really loved is that you read a letter from this woman, because we really lived her life. So we really got the sense of. how
I
the
couldn't
things went.
explain all of this without the letter.
So I thought the way you did that was fantastic. Secondly, what I really liked was the way you brought it down to the family level. We give these women we teach them how to become financially more powerful within their family and how to speak up for themselves within the family. And then that translates to the community.
So this
So I
is the
really
very
liked the way
key
you
thing.
Brought that out as the key thing.
That's a key thing for One
Right.
Village Partners, but it's also a key thing for Together Women Rise. We are giving women their voices in all of our programs, if you think about it. Like even people talking about child rape or whatever it is, by giving them a voice, we give them power. I mean, having come to these for more than 10 years.
And I even thought about that in terms of our own lives. Children who are raised in families like that become community leaders, even here. And so I thought it was a very powerful model, and you really emphasized that really, really well.
So here's what I find amazing and ironic. So I was going to say this, but I'll say it now. So the headmen, do they want to be the headman of a village like Atherton, or do they want to be the headman of a village like East Palo Alto? Which village do you want to be the headman of? What's going to give you more status? Well, if your village is really kind of accomplishing things, it has its own school, it's got a bridge across the river, it's got a drying floor, everyone's going to look at the headman and his people and say, man, that dude's got it going on. And the reason the headmen, they somehow kind of bring the volunteers from One Village Partners, get the headmen to go along with bringing more gender equity in, because, I mean, ironically, the headman ends up becoming more prosperous when the village is more prosperous, but more importantly, when his village has got it going on with schools and community centers and a well that works and latrines and everything else, everybody looks at that village and says, oh, you are a very wise headman. And it's all based on really the talents, socially and otherwise, of the women of the village, in my humble opinion.
Well said.
And the youth, they know how to use the cell phones, right? So I think it's funny that the headmen make more money when the women are allowed to be themselves.
Thank you.
If you want to be the headman of Atherton or East Palo Alto, you choose.
Portola
Valley.
Or Portola Valley, whatever it is. Okay. Any other questions? Well, I think we should party down.
All right, it's time for dessert. All right, I'm gonna go. This means me. So thank you, Anne. That was a really wonderful presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed that. So many components of it. And we had one more question. Anne had a really good question at the break that I wasn't sure how to answer. Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to ask?
Yeah,
Oh,
yes.
You were gonna ask that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I was very interested in the letter. I thought that was very effective, but I thought maybe I missed. I mean, she said that she couldn't read, so she was not writing the letter actually. She
Yeah,
was
because in the
thinking.
beginning I said that the One Village Partner volunteer was helping her write the letter.
Oh, so see, I missed that part. So, but I was, well, I figured that she was having help with it. Anyway, yeah, it's very effective.
So she couldn't read or write, but the One Village Partner did that.
Or
for her.
add, like she doesn't understand the concept of or, maybe.
Right, yeah.
So all of that seemed a lot for them to be so now organized with running a business. So,
Well, they understand survival.
Yeah, they understand survival.
you understand what it takes to.
Well, I mean, again, back to that whole thing, everywhere in the world is experiencing inflation. So one of the concepts they had to understand, or that they're teaching in the business component, is if your feed has gone up 14%, okay, how much more do you need to charge for your eggs? And it's probably more than 14% more, right? Because then your chicks are going to cost, you know, the little chicks you have for your chicken and egg business, they're going to cost more, right? So they teach them sort of a formula for how to come up with the price of what their eggs should be and what their chickens should be. Yeah. Complicated for anyone. Yeah.
I love that. And it just feels like the men were desperate for help and the women were providing that, and that created that happy marriage that was so nice to see.
May I also interject there to clarify that Anne, this letter was not from a real person. Anne came up with the concept to tell the story of One Village Partners through the eyes of one woman, what her life was actually like and how this actually changed her life.
I couldn't explain too many things without the letter, because Ellen and I both agree that people remember stories. And so I tried to create a memorable story with a baseline of truth based on what I know about One Village Partners. So this is not a true letter. I'm just saying, this is modern California fiction. Okay.
Yeah. And I think Anne was brilliant to come up with that concept, because it really enabled us to live this woman's life and see it through her eyes versus through our eyes. So well
thank you.
done,
I
Anne.
think we have a new screenwriter in the mix. Well, I want to
That should be all of us.
extend a thank you to Karen. Where's Karen? Is she not out here?
Oh, Karen.
Hello, Karen. Okay, well, she'll be here in a minute. In the meantime, due to the chilly weather, we actually thought tonight was going to be very warm. And so I want to announce that beginning next month, we are, due to COVID, we're continuing the daytime meetings, or outdoor meetings due to COVID, and we're moving to daytime. It's just getting dark too early. So the agenda has been sent out. I'll send it out again. It's going to be 2:30 to 4:30 on the first Thursday of the month for now. When COVID lifts and we can go back indoors, we're going to resume dinner meetings. But again, due to the weather, first Thursdays, 2:30 to 4:30. Next meeting is at Fran's house. Thank you, Fran. And Ellen Shuck is presenting. Okay.
I actually,
Karen?
because I have not told Carol this yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Because
I didn't even know what
because we will probably be out of town that date. I haven't told you yet. I was lining up.
That's okay. I have a double thank you for Karen. And Karen, thank you for the beautiful dinner and the plum cake. Everything was lovely. And so Karen will be presenting a couple last items. We spoke about the DAP, the Donor Advised Funds. For those of you who were at the meeting, you may recall that we're just trying to make your dollars go farther and be double tax efficient. It was Deborah DiFilippo's idea, Deborah's baby, and she's actually arranged for a speaker. Stay tuned. Our December meeting will be kicked off with a wonderful Donor Advised Fund or DAP presentation. It's optional for everybody, of course, to engage in that, but you do get an extra tax write-off for your dollars. A little bit on the national level. Some of you saw that we sent out the book club recently in September, and they had the book called Cast, which I downloaded and I've started. And I think it's really a wonderful program that Rise has. They like to not go by, if you don't want to say Together Women Rise, they prefer you not say TWR, because that is the same name for other organizations. So we're called Rise for short. And there's a wonderful book club. In November 3rd, some Rise grantees have actually written a book called Standing in the Way: From Trafficking Victim to Human Rights Activist. So this is a victim of trafficking who became an activist and has written a book. The book club is November 3rd at 5 p.m. Stay tuned. That will be in the wrap up as well. Okay. And that's pretty much it. Deborah.
That I just want to let everyone know is out there. Something that's really great that I just started that I think is really fabulous. And that is Rise also has an advocacy training subcommittee where there is an issue that they ask you and they train you. A great organization called results.org. So anybody that ever wants to learn how to advocate for an issue to your Congress people, whatever, just Google results.org, look at all their training or whatever, and they'll tell you how to do it. But what they do every month is they invite you to a meeting. And so the next meeting is this next Tuesday, the 21st. And they will say, in this meeting, we are inviting you to advocate for, and the topic this month is for vaccine equality globally. And so they're going to ask us to talk to our Congress people, and I'm not sure exactly what the ask is yet, of how much money we're going to ask an issue to go to Congress and try to get for us to step up to the plate on the global stage to start vaccinating all the countries out there that need vaccinations. I did see in the headline that Biden's goal that he wants to put out there is that all countries all over the world have our what's the vaccine rate, like 80% vaccinated by September of 2022. So I know we're going towards that goal, but if you want to learn how to advocate, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I would second that, Deborah. I went to one of their meetings, and I'm not an advocate. I never have been, and it was so easy. I was nervous. They give you a role and you role play, but they made it so easy. They practically handed me a script, and that's what they do every time. So they make it really easy to actually go to Congress and advocate for this, or at least be on the committee and serve in whatever small part you want to do. So thank you, Deborah. I'll include that also in the wrap up.
And Carol, can I just link back to the book club as well?
Yes, the book club.
Which I attended for the first time this last week. And it was a little disappointing because Isabel Wilkerson did not show up. So I thought, oh, am I going to sign out? I think one of our other members signed out at that point. I hung in there. They have breakout groups where you go and talk with other women about a certain question. And I thought, well, we'll see. They were terrific. So even though I thought I was going to be disappointed in this, my first book club, even with the disappointment, it was terrific. So I highly recommend it. The second point I want to make is I want to stand up and applaud all of you because you have all become so involved. Every one of you is taking an active role either in advocacy or in being a hostess or helping us get set up. Everybody's taking a role and everybody's involved. Everybody, it's terrific.
Thank you, Angela.
Angela, I'm so sorry. God, excuse me. Angela is here every time to set us up with all the technology. Everybody in this group is taking a role and getting involved and getting engaged. And I can't thank you enough. It means so much to Carol and me and all of us. And I think it gives each of us a deeper and richer Dying for Women, or excuse me, brides experience. So thank you.
Exactly. Thank you to everybody. All right, so at this point, help yourself to s'more, plum cake, chat with your friends, whenever we're officially done, you're welcome to hang out. I'm not doing the pictures, my friends.